In our complete Valyrian dragon breeds overview, we covered the 6 major types that built the greatest empire in history. We've explored the oceanic Waverunners, the high-altitude Skyshriekers, and the storm-conquering Stormclaws. Today we're talking about the dragons that people called living gold, while Colossi were brutal siege weapons and Embermaws were industrial workhorses. One breed was so breathtakingly beautiful that ancient Valyrian poets wrote entire cycles about their appearance. Dragons with scales like molten gold, burnished bronze, and desert sunrise. Dragons that shimmered like mirages. Dragons so efficient they could fly for days on a single meal, patrol deserts where other breeds would die from heat exhaustion. These were the Sunscales, Valyria's desert specialists and long-range endurance champions. The most fuel-efficient dragons ever bred. The ones that could survive in conditions that would cook other dragons alive. And their descendants? Sunfire the Golden, considered the most beautiful dragon in Westerosi history. Syrax, Rhaenyra's golden mount. Silverwing, the graceful she-dragon who refused to cross the wall, all carrying that legendary Sunscale bloodline that turned dragons into living artwork. This is the story of beauty, endurance, and the dragons that conquered fire itself. The desert problem. Picture the western reaches of the Valyrian freehold around 6,500 years before Aegon's conquest. Territories beyond the 14 Flames stretch toward the Red Waste, and great deserts separating civilized Essos from the mysterious east. Valyria needs to secure trade routes through scorching regions where temperatures hit 120 degrees Fahrenheit. And conventional dragons are dying out there. Here's the problem. Most dragons are built for volcanic heat. Brief exposures to extreme temperatures in forges and lava flows. Desert heat is different, sustained, relentless, hour after hour, under merciless sun with no shade, no water, no volcanic vents. Colossi overheat catastrophically. Their massive bodies retain heat. Dark scales absorb solar radiation. After a few hours of desert patrol, they're panting, sluggish, collapsing from heat stroke. Embermaws do slightly better, but still struggle. Their compact, heavily muscled builds generate too much internal heat. Even Skyshriekers have problems. They can fly above the heat, but can't patrol caravan routes from 20,000 feet. Enter House Mirages, controlling the Tolos Mantaris corridor, and House Cieleris, along the Illyria Velos arc near the Red Waste. Around 6,500 BC, they began what other families thought impossible. Breeding dragons specifically for hot, non-volcanic environments. They studied wild dragons that nested in desert badlands, scraggly creatures that nevertheless survived where Valyrian dragons died. These desert survivors had lighter builds, reflective scales, energy-conserving behaviors. The breeders began crossing their lightest dragons with these survivors, selecting for reflective coloration, efficient metabolisms, heat dissipation structures, and the ability to enter metabolic suppression during peak heat. After 5 generations and many dead dragons, they succeeded. The first true Sunscale flew across the Red Waste and returned 3 days later, healthy, having consumed 1/10 of what a comparable Embermaw would need. The biomechanics of beauty and efficiency. Sunscale scales came in colors that sound like poetry. Burnished gold, desert bronze, pale amber, rose copper, silver white with gold veining, dawn pink fading to cream. But these weren't just beautiful, they were functional. The scales had unique crystalline structures in their outer layers, microscopic facets that reflected solar radiation instead of absorbing it. When sunlight hit a Sunscale, 60 to 70% bounced off. Compare that to black-scaled Colossi, absorbing 90+%. The scales also had faint iridescence, shifting colors depending on viewing angle, creating a shimmering mirage-like effect. Ancient Valyrians described them as dragons that steal the sun's fire and wear it as armor. This meant Sunscales could fly through midday desert heat, maintaining body temperatures 10 to 15 degrees cooler than other breeds. Sunscales had the most efficient metabolisms ever bred into dragons. A colossus needed tons of meat daily. A Sunscale, one substantial meal fueled 3 to 4 days of flight. They had specialized digestive tracts Extracting maximum nutrition, they stored excess energy as biological batteries along their spines and wing roots, metabolizing very slowly over days. And here's the sorcery. They produced metabolic water. When burning stored fats, the chemical process generated water molecules internally. Not enough for full hydration, but enough to significantly extend time between drinking. Desert nomads reported seeing Sunscales that hadn't drunk water in over a week. The cooling system. Sunscale wing membranes were thin, almost translucent. When backlit, you could see blood vessels branching like delicate lacework. This wasn't weakness, it was a radiator. Those thin membranes allowed rapid heat dissipation. Blood flowing through wings cooled as air passed. When overheating, a Sunscale would extend wings fully and glide, using them as cooling fins, dropping body temperature 10 degrees in minutes. They also had enlarged nasal passages with complex turbinate structures, breathing organs that doubled as evaporative coolers. Every exhale shed heat, that distinctive soft sighing breathing pattern, constant self-cooling. The desert build. Wingspans ranged from 240 feet for scouts to 420 feet for caravan escorts, noticeably lighter than comparable breeds. Less dense bones, sacrificing durability for reduced weight. Lean muscles, optimized for sustained cruising rather than burst power. Broader, flatter talons for landing on sand without sinking. Longer, more flexible tails for balance on unstable terrain. Their flight style was distinctive. Long, lazy wing beats interspersed with extended glides. They'd catch thermals rising from sun-baked sand and ride them for miles, barely expending energy. Other dragons fought the air. Sunscales danced with it. Desert sentinels, 320 to 420 feet. Largest Sunscales bred for long-range caravan escort by houses Valyrian and Colossi, could fly 18 to 20 hours straight, covering vast territories. Deep gold to bronze coloring. These secured trade routes through the deadliest deserts. Oasis wardens, 280 to 360 feet, mid-sized, bred for outpost defense and water source protection by houses Solaris and Valyrian. Slightly heavier, capable of decent combat while retaining heat tolerance. Colored in paler golds, creams, rose, copper, perfect for blending with desert rock. Mirages, 240 to 320 feet, smallest, fastest Sunscales, bred for reconnaissance and message relay by houses Nerix and Saigaron. Incredibly lean, often silver-white or pale gold, with pronounced iridescent shimmer. They'd appear like heat ghosts, barely visible against bright sand. Sunscales revolutionized Valyrian desert commerce. Before them, caravans were constantly raided. Bandits struck during midday when dragons couldn't patrol effectively. After Sunscales, banditry nearly vanished. A single desert sentinel could circle a caravan route for 3 days straight, resting by gliding on thermals, hunting desert game, never returning to base. The most famous deployment was the 10,000-mile patrol. Lady Shera Valyrian and her Sunscale Dawnbreaker flew a continuous circuit around Valyria's entire desert frontier over 40 days, visiting every outpost, checking every water source, mapping every bandit camp. When she returned, the dragon had barely lost weight, having hunted along the route and maintained peak condition. No other breed could replicate that feat. Militarily, Sunscales excelled at siege support. During extended Giscari campaigns, they maintained aerial surveillance over enemy cities for weeks, reporting troop movements and supply deliveries. While Colossi burned cities, Sunscales provided the intelligence making victory possible. The heat-forged doctrine made them terrifying. Sunscales would fly low over enemy formations during peak midday heat, not attacking, but hovering. Their wing beats pushed superheated desert air downward, raising ground temperature another 10 to 15 degrees. Troops in metal armor at 120 degrees. Add 15 degrees and they're cooking inside their equipment. At the Battle of Red Dunes, circa 4,800 BC, 3 Sunscales hovered over a Giscari relief column for 6 hours. They barely breathed fire, just waited. The army collapsed from heat exhaustion, over 2,000 casualties without direct attack. When House Targaryen fled to Dragonstone, they preserved strong Sunscale genetics, producing some of Westeros' most beautiful dragons. Sunfire the Golden, Aegon II's dragon, described as the most beautiful dragon ever seen. Gleaming gold scales, rose-pink wing membranes, flame that sparkled like gold dust. Wingspan approximately 184 feet, but the coloring, grace, shimmer, pure Sunscale bloodline. Even wounded and dying after multiple battles, Sunfire was heartbreakingly beautiful. That aesthetic supremacy, 6,000 years of Sunscale breeding. Syrax, Rhaenyra's dragon. Golden scales, graceful build, comfortable in warm climates. Wingspan approximately 194 feet. Classic Sunscale traits, efficiency, beauty, distinctive golden shimmer. Silver Wing, Queen Alysanne's dragon. Silver-white scales with characteristic iridescence. Described as graceful and friendly. Typical Sunscale temperament. She refused to cross the wall 3 times, possibly sensing temperature conditions beyond her comfort threshold. Dreamfire, Helena's dragon. Silver blue scales, notably beautiful, graceful flyer. Showed Sunscale traits mixed with other bloodlines. In Valyrian culture, dragon beauty wasn't just aesthetic, it was strategic propaganda. When a Sunscale landed in foreign cities, scales gleaming like captured sunlight, moving with liquid grace, shimmering like living mirages, it made an impression. It said, Valyria commands creatures of such beauty and power that your gods would weep. Diplomats loved Sunscales. They'd arrive on Sunscale back, and visual impact alone softened negotiations. But Sunscale's real legacy was efficiency. A single Sunscale could patrol territories requiring 3 Embermaws working shifts. They operated in climates grounding Colossi. They required a fraction of logistical support. This changed Valyrian strategic thinking. Dragon deployment wasn't just about raw power, but sustainability, about matching the right breed to the right environment. When the doom came, most Sunscale bloodlines died, but their genetics survived in Targaryen dragons, proving beauty, efficiency, and adaptability are just as powerful as size and strength, sometimes more so. The Sunscales, living gold, desert jewels, the most beautiful dragons ever bred. The desert sentinels that could fly for days without rest. The oasis wardens that turned heat into a weapon. The mirage runners that shimmered like dreams. And their descendants, Sunfire, Syrax, Silver Wing, who proved 6,000 years of breeding for beauty and efficiency, create something that takes your breath away. Let me know which Valyrian breed we should cover next. And subscribe. We're rebuilding the Dragon Empire one video at a time. Valar Morghulis.